Hello, you've decided to bite the bullet and install a Linux operating system. But how do you go about picking a Linux operating system? There's well over 200 of them available. If I go to DistroWatch's website, they have a popularity ranking list on the right-hand side, and I could merely pick the most popular, and that would be Mint over the last 6 months. And I scroll down, and there's just a lot of them. That's only the top 100. So how do I pick that operating system that's going to work for me? Well, I think the first thing you want to focus and look at is the level of support you get from the operating system. I use Manjaro as my daily driver, but I use a lot of other operating systems too. And I've really picked different operating systems based on their hardware and on the level of support I could get. And one of my requirements is that every distribution I use have a relatively active forum. And that's where I can go and get questions answered when I do run into problems. And trust me, you're going to run into some problems. And it's not unique to Linux. I ran into lots and lots of Windows problems, lots and lots of Apple problems. But I do want to have a resource I can go to that's going to help me with my problems. And oftentimes, you'll find out that other people have had the exact same problem you've had. So, and you can see here the topics per week that are in each of the different categories: general discussion, newbie corner, technical issues, and assistance. So this is a pretty active forum, and it's also a very friendly forum, and I really enjoy it a lot. So the strength of the forum is one of my early deciding factors on whether I want to try out a distribution or not. Now, it doesn't have to be the forum for that distribution, because a lot of distributions are based on a parent distribution like Ubuntu. So Ubuntu has a lot of different distributions that are derived from it, and I can get the answer just as easily from an Ubuntu forum as I could from the other forum. The next thing I want to take a look at is my hardware, and I really want to get a good understanding of whether my hardware is new or old, fast or slow, whether I'm using popular pieces of equipment and peripherals, or whether they're esoteric. And that'll help me decide on which operating system to choose. And finally, I want to look at what the goal is for my computer. Is it going to primarily be a browser? Is it office work related? Is it entertainment related? I'm going to stream a lot of videos. Is it gaming related? I want to play a lot of games. Or is it something I want to do with a lot of graphics? So I want to understand what my goal is for the operating system. Because in the Linux world, there are operating systems tailored for almost about every need and every level of equipment. So once I've kind of gone through that list and have a good understanding of what I want to accomplish, I want to look at the philosophy of the distribution. And every distribution has a philosophy. Some are trying to be all things to all people and be very popular, and others are being very narrow focused and might just, for example, focus on minimizing your electrical usage so that your laptop battery is going to last as long as possible. And there is a distribution out there like that. If I go to DistroWatch, I can see what the popular distributions are, and then I can click on them and read more about each individual distribution. It tells me the type of operating system, what it's based on, where it's coming from primarily, the architecture that I'm using. Is it 32-bit? Is it 64-bit? What kind of desktop I can have? The basic category that DistroWatch puts them in. Is it applicable for beginners, or is it a desktop? Is it good for notebooks and laptops? Can you use it as a live medium, which means just run it off a CD or a USB drive? And really, the popularity on DistroWatch's list here is just based on the number of clicks that people have clicked on the operating system to search for it. And if I change it to see what's trending, I get a radically different list. There's Chapeau, Refracta, and just because it's popular doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good operating system for me. But I do want to understand the philosophy, and there's no better place to find out what the philosophy is than on DistroWatch. And for example, I like Chaos, but Chaos is definitely not for everybody. I'm just reading the description. It's a desktop Linux distribution that features the latest version of KDE. Okay. And it was inspired by Arch Linux, but it's not Arch Linux. If I scroll down here, I can see it does use Pacman as the package manager. And one of the neat things about DistroWatch is you can go to the home page of each distribution very quickly. And if I just jump here and let's see, scroll down, I can see lots of neat little pictures. And go to the FAQ. And on the FAQ is they give a description of what the target user is. And the thing about KDE is it's focused really narrowly on the KDE Qt applications. If you want to run something that's not 64-bit, you're out of luck. So you can't run Wine, Steam, which are the two more popular 32-bit applications still left, because they want to be narrowly focused on a 64-bit architecture. So, in fact, I think they even have a answer on why it doesn't run 32-bit. It's because they would require installing another 150 to 200 support packages just to run Skype, Wine, or Steam. So Chaos isn't for everybody. But for the people that appreciate the KDE desktop and really want to run with that and have the latest up-to-date software, it's wonderful. So let's hop back. So once we get past the philosophy of each operating system, the other thing I think you want to look at is the history of updates. If I look at Manjaro, I can scroll down on DistroWatch's page, and I can see has had quite a few updates, starting in 2013. Okay, that's not a lot. If I went to Ubuntu, it would go back and fill the whole page. But you do want to have a system that is being supported and supported into the future. The next thing you really want to look at, and you don't really get it from DistroWatch, is how easy is it to install. And in the category section, sometimes they put beginner, meaning it's easier to install or is more appropriate for beginners. And Manjaro doesn't make that cut. Although I would argue it is probably applicable to the advanced beginner, somebody that's a little more comfortable around computers. Now, one of the things Manjaro has is a rolling release. And a rolling release means that every time you update your computer, it's bringing the distribution up to the current levels. So in Ubuntu, for example, it jumps with major upgrades, say from 12.04 to 14.04 to 16.04, big new versions. And sometimes in a distribution, you have to reload and do a fresh install every time you jump up from one version to another. And on other computer systems, you can upgrade and it will retain all your files and folders in your home folder, for example, and it doesn't require an entire fresh reinstall. But you want to look at whether you like the idea of a rolling release or not. Another area you want to look at is what package manager does the distribution use? Does it use an esoteric package manager that has really limited number of applications? And Chaos falls in that. There's not going to be 20 different music players in Chaos. There's going to be 5 or 6. They're all going to be good. But there isn't going to be an unlimited number of them. And if you look at Ubuntu, which just has a really long history, it uses the Debian repositories and its package management system. And it's got 50, 60,000 programs in there for you to choose from. I think Chaos might have 17 to 20,000. Guessing off the top of my head there, but that's the number I seem to remember. So you want to look and see what kind of package management system and whether that software is going to be part of the repository of the system you're using. And then finally, you want to look at the desktop environment. And that's also highlighted on DistroWatch, as it gives you the desktop. Here it says Unity, but you can use Ubuntu in almost any desktop, but it's not a supported program. Their claim to fame is the Unity desktop. But if I go back and look, I can use other distributions of Ubuntu that use the Mate desktop, for example, and that's Ubuntu Mate. Or I can use Ubuntu. And so I have the choice of using Ubuntu in different desktops. And some of the more popular desktops come with access, some of the more popular distributions come with access to lots and lots of different desktops. But to me, the desktops are all variations on a theme, and they pretty much accomplish the same thing, kind of through a different route. I can make a KDE desktop look a lot like an XFCE desktop, for example. So to me, the choice of a desktop environment isn't as high on my list of priorities as understanding the philosophy of the distribution, making sure that that meshes with my computer and hardware that I'm using. So we didn't really look at any specific operating system in depth. We more kind of asked basic questions about what do I want to get out of the computer, and what does the distribution offer me. It should take you about an hour to install a distribution and all the way to the hard drive and boot it up and try it out. So you can feel free to hop around different distributions, and you can pick and choose that way, or you can put a little more homework in, go visit their home pages, read about what they're trying to solve, what their solution they're trying to provide is, and to see if it meshes with what you have and what you're looking for. And then I think you won't spend as much time distribution hopping. And as long as you've got a good forum to fall back on for help, I think you can make your Linux experience very enjoyable. If you're a first-time user, my advice usually is to go with something like Peppermint, Ubuntu Mate. Those are kind of my top two choices, especially if you've been in a Windows 7 environment. And I can go and look at the top distributions. Here we go. Oh, I didn't update. And Mint is never a bad choice. I've run into problems with Mint on a couple of my computers, but I still use it on a laptop. And Debian's very popular. Ubuntu, if you like that Unity desktop, it's there for you. OpenSUSE, Fedora, Manjaro, CentOS, Mageia. Arch is a more complicated operating system with a very difficult installer, so it's definitely not recommended for the first-time user. And Zorin's claim to fame is that it's really designed for Windows users. Elementary is more for an Apple user. So each of these operating systems has a distinct flavor and character and philosophy. And just spend some time exploring those. And oftentimes you can find help with the installation right here on YouTube. So I hope that's helped you think about what kind of distribution you would like for your personal use. Thanks for watching.